Let's go.
This is Russ Burlingame from comicbook.com. I am here with Jim Lee and Dan DiDio. These are the publishers of DC Comics. And I guess the first thing I wanted to ask is, Jim, how much did you have to pay Dan to get Wildstorm back up to town?
I've been suppressing it.
There's a lot of secret deals there. Like, I'll trade you one Wildstorm for 2 DC Young Animals. The slots in the publishing slate are very coveted, very hard to come by. No, look, we share enthusiasm for a lot more than just superheroes, and when done well, the DC universe is awesome. But I have a special place in my heart for the Wildstorm characters. Obviously, they're superheroes, but they've always had more of this conspiratorial bent to them, a little bit of on the fringes type of feel, and I think some of that was lost when they were part of the DC universe. So being able to kind of extract them out of the main line and give them their own space to kind of breathe and be done differently and properly by the likes of a guy named Warren Ellis, that's the best you can hope for. And so he is a heavy hitter. He's a visionary, and he's a guy that, in my mind, best defined a lot of the core concepts that Brad Troy and I created when we launched Monster back in '92.
This gentleman here, my camera operator, I know for a fact had like 10 of the Gen 13 variant covers. Because he sold me his collection.
Sure. He's missing 3. So anyway, yeah, we did 13 of them.
Yeah. So I guess the question about that actually kind of ties into Rebirth, which is you have these characters that are a little bit darker, a little bit more conspiratorial, like you said, so there's some kind of paranoia there. We saw a lot of that at the beginning of the New 52, and obviously it's scaling back. We now see Superman getting literally the key to the city and things like that.
County fair.
Yeah, the county fair. And so what was the kind of process by which you said, okay, that was one of the things that maybe we should not be as focused on?
It's not that we didn't focus on it. It was really going back to the core conceits of who the characters were. We sat down with Jeff Johns and was explaining that one of the things Jeff does in his role working with film and TV is that he has to distill down the core essence of who these characters are as he's talking to different filmmakers and producers to explain how they work so that they can build the characters out from there. And what he did for those producers and directors, he actually did for our writers, for some of them to really understand who the characters are about. So what we wanted to do is really get back to their core, know who they are, and a lighter aspect works well for Superman, which might not work as well with Batman. And we've decided to get everything back to a foundation that's recognizable, and then from there we're able to build stories out from it. Again, our goal is to have this long epic that plays out over 2 years that slowly develops, that really is something that is true to DC and illustrates what DC is. And it's a lot of fun, but you have to start at that beginning that people most recognize, and that's what people know when they ask about our characters. That's it.
Now, my local retailer is here today, and I was talking to him, and he says, you should do a story on the buybacks for DC's Rebirth. And whenever he says something like that, my thought is, oh God, what's next? And like the returns.
Okay, the returnability of the books.
And
Right?
I said, okay, well, what's happening? Are you not selling through? He's like, no, I still can't keep my hands on them. It's 4 months in. And so that's
what was the angle that he was trying to...
Well, because his idea was that with Marvel Now and with the New 52, pretty much everything that's gone on the last 5 years, that hasn't really been the case. 3 months in, you got retailers who are trying to sell stuff back. He's like, this is the first time this has happened to me where I actually am still having to up orders 3 months in.
Yeah, well, look, the idea behind returnable comics is to encourage retailers to order as many copies as possible so that when we go out there and promote this and market it properly, that they don't run out. I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen, is that they don't have books and create this demand for it. And it gives them the comfort to go ahead and work them knowing that they can return them and get credit back for the books. That said, there's only a certain amount of capital cash they have on hand, so it can still work out that even if they order heavy, they didn't order enough. I mean, that's what's happening. And that's a good problem to have, at the end of the day. But look, it's been a resounding success. We've gone back to press on at least, 10 or 15 titles. 20 books have sold over 200,000 copies. We've sold like 14 million since we've launched Rebirth. It's been an amazing run. And returnability, I think, also signals to retailers that we have full confidence that you can sell these books, that we will put our money on the line and them knowing that we have that confidence in them probably gives them a subconscious sort of feeling of support and know that this is a big event for us.
I mean, we have returnability on the first 6 issues of Rebirth. I'm sorry, New 52 as well.
Right.
I think what you see though is that what happened was that we launched all 52 books in the same month, and then people didn't know how to react, and I think they overreacted, and then we saw some returns against that. Here we had a slower rollout, so they had a chance to really gauge the audience. So you saw in the second month probably a little more volatility in the market, but by the third month they had it figured out about what the size of the audience was, and they were really using returnability as a tool to make sure their shelves were stocked. So it wasn't just about a pull list, but also stuff that even a casual person who might be walking through just looking at samples of material. So I think that's the win for everybody here. Our sales numbers have been strong according to our full month. We saw how we performed in September. Again, very strong month for us. All things considered, could not be any better.
Now, in the release for Batwoman the other day, you guys kind of snuck in there that this is the start of a second wave of Rebirth.
That's all by plan. There's nothing stuck.
But it wasn't something that like when I pointed out to my boss, he was like, "Oh, yeah." Is there anything you can kind of tell us about what the vision for the second wave is? Is it just more of the same philosophy with different characters, or are you shifting gears a little bit?
It's a little bit of growth. There's a little bit of growth taking place here, and what you're seeing. 2 of the books were actually planned in the original rollout, which was Justice League America and Super Son. So really the only new book that wasn't pre-planned when we first announced everything back at WonderCon early this year is Batwoman. And one of the reasons why we went to Batwoman is that we had a resounding success with the Detective comic. It's really been one of the overachievers for us, and Batwoman has been a standout star, and we feel that that book was able to build momentum and interest in that character in a way that we felt if we spun around, she was going to series. And that's what's really happening right now is that we're going to try to keep the Rebirth line tight and really manage it as closely as possible. Double ships move a lot of product through. And what we'd like to do is take the success of books like Batman, Superman, or any book that's selling well, integrate other characters into those stories, give them a chance to find an audience or connect with people in a way that if they have a level of support that we can spit out into their own series. But there's no urgency to do more material right now. We're not going to, like with New 52, we canceled probably a lot of books too early. We won't be making that mistake again. Everything's performing well, and we're going to stick with what we have for the foreseeable future.
Now, there's obviously a handful of characters that are still either missing, that we either haven't seen since the New 52, or we haven't seen since key stories within the last 5 years. I know you're constantly being bombarded with, hey, are you going to bring back X? And you can never say.
Right.
But
I just said, Jim, you want to take that one?
well, is it fair for readers to assume that some of the people who are missing by design? Because obviously we now see Tim Drake off the board in what appears to be building to a much bigger story. And I know that somebody, I think Tomasi teased that New 52 Superman had something going on that was similar to that. So is it safe to assume that? I guess is the non-spoiler question.
I was going to say, there's a chamber where Tim Drake has been put in with a lot of other capsules. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I was talking to my good friend Mark and Draco the other day, and talking about Manhunter.
Right.
With the restoration of Legacy within the DC universe, are we going to start to see, like, not necessarily her specifically, but characters like, you had Manhunter, you had Starman, you had Stark, like, there's a lot of characters who were built on Legacy who just couldn't really be the same person in the New 52.
And you're saying Rebirth gives us the opportunity.
Yeah, Rebirth gives us an opportunity.
I think that's part of it. I mean, one of the things that we want to bring back with Rebirth is a generational aspect. And it's a lot easier to do that building off of existing continuity. One of the things that we did with the New 52 was saying, well, this is the first appearance of a superhero with Superman, and that created a different tonality of the stories, and one that we really kind of mined for several years. And those stories were really great. At the same time, you had a lot of longer time fans, older fans that felt like, no, we want to have that connection back to the Golden Age, the Silver Age, and to, I think, the credit of the editorial staff, it's not that we're locked in on one mentality. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to create as many great books as possible, reach the widest number of readers possible. And so, in a way, the New 52 sets up Rebirth. I don't know if Rebirth happened without the New 52 happening. sales, and I think that's because there are a lot of fans that might have kind of hit the pause button when New 52 happened, and now they're back. And so it's great. It's an ever-evolving universe, ever-evolving continuity, mythology, and it's great that we're in a period where fans can embrace it.
I know you guys got to run. I got one more question I wanted to ask, which is, you've said many times that TV and movie doesn't drive the publishing side, that you guys have to come up with your own things. And that said, it's hard to ignore, we have a new JLA book coming out where it's 3 characters who are on Legends of Tomorrow in one form or another. Is it nice to kind of have, when you're bringing in new fans or lapsed fans, it's nice to have that other media to kind of look at and say, like, no, but you know these characters.
Yeah, it's funny. It works both ways. They look at raw material and say, well, people know them from the comics, and they go to the movies, and then they put them in the movies, and they say, no, they don't know the comics. It's a very synergistic thing. I mean, we're all sharing the same characters, and we're all sharing the same sensibilities of the characters. What we're not sharing is the story of this movie. We have to tell stories. We tell stories in a different ways, different medium. We have to be the innovators, I say all the time. We have to be the leaders. We have to be the ones that create the ideas that they can expand on from there. That's how we grow. That's how we stay relevant as a publisher. But in the world, if we know that there's increased awareness for character, it only makes sense to take advantage of that and build on it too. Putting those things in place.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.